What's up everybody, my name's Jimmy and it's time to shuffle and cut with a fresh build. This is Blue-Green Merfolk and Rivals of Ixalan Standard. Before we get started, smash that like button. Also subscribe and hit that bell icon so you don't miss anything from Mindsculpting MtG. Ixalan gave us a look at what certain tribal synergies might look like, but unfortunately certain key pieces were missing. Enter Rivals of Ixalan. Now we can see how the tribes of Ixalan are panning out with some shiny new additions. Now, on to today's build. I feel like the key to this deck is protecting our creatures and timing. Be like water, as Bruce Lee famously once said. Take the form needed to adapt to the current situation. Go wide when the time calls for it, or go big when you need to slip through the cracks. Starting with the 1-drops, we have a playset of Kumena's Speaker. This amazing 1-drop gets +1/+1 as long as you control an island or another merfolk. It's a cheap aggressive threat that can be good at any point in the game. Also, if you follow this up with a turn 2 Merfolk Mistbinder, you have a 3/3 beating down on your opponent on turn 2. For our newest inclusions for this build, we have 4 Jade Bearer and 3 Mist-Cloaked Herald. You may not want to play Jade Bearer on turn 1, however on turns 2, 3, 4 or any other spot on the curve it can be great as it gives any other merfolk a +1/+1 counter when it enters the battlefield. In other words, it's great for adding +1/+1 counters to all of our other creatures that are already getting +1/+1 counters, so they just stack up. This goes along with our go big strategy. Mist-Cloaked Herald is great because it's an early unblockable threat that can also get bigger with our other merfolk synergies. Moving on to our 2-drops, we have playsets of Deeproot Elite and Merfolk Mistbinder. It's pretty obvious why Merfolk Mistbinder is in the deck. It's a lord and grants all of our merfolk +1/+1. Deeproot Elite, on the other hand, kind of functions like an additional lord to the deck. When another merfolk enters the battlefield, Deeproot Elite gives any other creature a +1/+1 counter. This adds to the synergy of the deck because we're constantly casting creatures and putting +1/+1 counters as long as this is in play. Imagine the possibilities if you also have a Deeproot Waters in play along with Deeproot Elite and you're casting merfolk. Not only are you creating tokens, those tokens are also getting +1/+1 counters, or you can selectively decide to put those on other creatures that you see fit. Now, I did consider Metallic Mimic in this build, but consider this. Mimic can only be the creature type of your choice while it's on the battlefield. Therefore, when you actually cast it, it is not considered a merfolk. This almost functions as a non-bow with Deeproot Waters. I would rather all of my creatures actually be merfolk so we can truly take advantage of those tribal synergies. Plus, I feel like we already have enough ways in the deck to distribute our +1/+1 counters to all of our creatures. That's kind of what merfolk are all about. To finish off the 2-drops, we have 4 copies of Silvergill Adept. I'm actually still pretty shocked that they reprinted this card, but it fits nicely in the Ixalan block. Not only do you get a cheap aggressive threat, but it also replaces itself in your hand by allowing you to draw a card when it enters the battlefield. As we all know, any aggressive deck like this needs that card draw so we can keep on pushing onwards to victory. To finish off the creature base, we're playing 3 copies of Kumena, Tyrant of Orazca. I'll be honest, at first I really wasn't that big a fan of this card. Not because I thought it was a bad card, but I just thought that maybe there were other cards that would fit better in the 3-drop slot. Of course, as I actually started playing with this deck and tweaking it, I realized it's super easy to get 5 merfolk on the field so you can get that +1/+1 counter effect from him. Also, let's talk about the fact that he's a 2/4 for 3 mana. And he can also serve as his card draw and be unblockable as well. The Tyrant of Orazca is a great all-around creature that offers flexibility at its finest. To support our strategy, we're playing 4 copies of Blossoming Defense. This will definitely be our main way of protecting our creatures, but we have other options in the sideboard, but we'll get to that later. Remember when I said be like water? 4 Deeproot Waters and 3 Hadana's Climb help us achieve this mentality. Deeproot Waters produces hexproof tokens anytime we cast any of our 26 merfolk. But honestly, Hadana's Climb is the real story here. With Hadana's Climb, at the beginning of every combat on our turn, we'll always get to put a +1/+1 counter on any creature we can control. Also, whenever that target creature gets a +1/+1 counter and it has 3 +1/+1 counters, you get to transform Hadana's Climb into the Winged Temple of Orazca. I gotta say, I love this card. With the Winged Temple of Orazca, you can tap it, pay a blue, a green, and 1 colorless to give any target creature +X+X, where X is its power. Also, it gets flying in the process. Needless to say, since we're already putting +1/+1 counters on all of our fish, this really comes in handy to easily transform into the Winged Temple of Orazca. With only a few activations of the Winged Temple of Orazca's ability, you're going to be pushing through tons of damage as most of your creatures are already going to be pretty big by the time you get it transformed. My favorite thing about this card is if you ever get into a board stall with your opponent, you can use this ability to fly on to victory by going over your opponent's heads. Now let's go over the 23 land mana base that we're working with. We're playing 4 copies of Unclaimed Territory. This is a given. We're a tribal deck and Unclaimed Territory goes great with that synergy. Seeing as most of the deck is comprised of creatures anyway, we're never going to have to worry about this not being able to pay for a spell we're trying to cast. Every once in a while you might run into the fact that you needed that 1 green mana to cast a Blossoming Defense, but typically speaking you're always going to use your Unclaimed Territories to pay for your creatures first anyways. As for the rest of the mana base, we're playing 4 copies of Botanical Sanctum, 2 Woodland Stream, 7 Forest, and 6 Islands. In playtesting, I gotta say, this mana base is pretty consistent. Usually I have the colors that I need when I need them and I never have to worry about anything. Now let's talk sideboard. Always keep in mind that your 15 card sideboard should always depend on what your local meta looks like, but this is what I got for you. Against aggro matchups, we're playing 3 copies of Essence Scatter and 2 Pounce. Because we're in Simic colors, we don't have a lot of access to spot removal. However, Essence Scatter does take care of this as it keeps any creatures that we couldn't normally deal with off the field in the first place. But if they do happen to make it to the field, we do have 2 copies of Pounce that can usually take care of those threats. To help further protect our creatures and also against other control decks, we're playing 2 copies of Spell Pierce and 3 Negate. These will help further protect our creatures against any spot removal or also any board wipes. Plus, if they try to counter our spells, we'll have these on standby to protect our game plan. We are also playing 2 copies of Heroic Intervention to help protect us against any other board wipes as well. Being able to give all of our creatures hexproof in a pinch is a necessity if we plan on winning. To finish things off, we're playing 3 copies of Naturalize. Naturalize is great for a lot of different situations. It's especially good against God Pharaoh's Gift so we can actually get that pesky artifact off the field. Naturalize is also great against Metallic Mimics, token strategies, and also anything running white enchantment based removal. That's all for today. Let me know what you think about the deck in the comments section below. Also, do you have any suggestions for content that you might want to see on this channel? I would love to hear your feedback. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss anything from Mindsculpting MtG. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next upkeep. Yeah.